Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Good. Thank you very much for joining. This is Mann. He is a broadcaster, filmmaker, and sports consultant, amongst many other things. MBE. Thank you, very much for for joining. Obviously, so today's interview. Yeah. So first of all, I would like you to introduce yourself. Tell me a bit more about what you do briefly, and then we can get it cracking.
No problem. My name is Leon Mann. I'm a sports consultant, formerly a broadcaster, although I still have an itch to do some broadcasting, filmmaker, and I guess campaigner is probably a word I'd probably add to my CV. Feel very fortunate to have worked in the sports industry for 20 years in different guises, and at the heart of the work that I feel most proud of and have um, probably known for is around equality, equity, diversity, inclusion, and so the journalism that I did was certainly around those areas. And in terms of what my company Refresh Sports does as a consultancy and production company, a lot of our work is centered around EI.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. So, obviously, I know that you've undertaken and you've been a part of so many projects. I just want to peel it back to your earlier sort of life. Where did that sort of where did your sort of hardworking nature and your drive for change come from? Was it always inherent within you, or did you just see something that thought, oh, maybe I could, change this or change that?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question because I believe to do anything in life you need to work hard. So whether you are a top lawyer, whether you're working in banking, whether you're working in the community, changing lives, whether you're doing a job like a binman, everyone needs someone to do their bins, right? Or else we can't function as a society. So to do any of those things well, we need to work hard. So I believe working hard is within all of us. And I had a moment in my life where I got quite ill following university, where I reflected on the fact that time can be very short. We don't know it, but something could happen to somebody who's watching this right now in an hour from now that might change their life forever. So therefore, thinking to that principle, something changed in me after being ill that made me think if I'm going to do it, I have to try and do it now, and I have to really go for it. So I have to shake off any sense of a fear of failure, because I believe firmly that a lot of people in life maybe don't go for something that they really would like to go for because they're worried about the embarrassment of what it would look like if they fail. And for me, I would prefer to have the embarrassment of failing, um, and try and really try to get something done than to never know, and be that person that sits in the middle of the community and says, I could have been a footballer, I could have been the next prime minister, I could have been all of these things, but they never actually even tried. So they would never have had a chance to do it and will never know. So for me, unfortunately, becoming ill around kind of 21, 22 years of age was a thing that shifted my mentality, and made me think, right, we have to get on with things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a wonderful answer. Sorry. Answer. Thank you very much. So, in your sort of your student life, what did you do at university, and what was your first step after university, and how did you sort of get into that first step?
Yeah, no. So I went to the University of Portsmouth. Was recently invited into what they call the Hall of Fame, which was very nice. So I've got a big Portsmouth football shirt here with University of Portsmouth, just above my computer. And I studied geography, so I work in the sports industry, but don't have any kind of formal sports degree or whatever it might be. So following university, that's when I got quite ill, and as I've touched on, and then I made the decision that I really wanted to work in an area that I really love, because if we can spend our time at work doing things we love, then that's a lot of time that you spend doing stuff that you love. You're not always going to love it every day, but certainly the majority of what we try and do should be around and centered on what we love doing. So I was very fortunate. I volunteered for a campaign called Kick It Out. The slogan was "Kick racism out of football" when I joined the campaign, and there I was working on anti-racism, and I was working in football. So it was just like something I was incredibly passionate about, something I loved. So perfect for me as a young person. And because it was a very small team of people, I got to work on lots of things in a bigger organisation. So goals was time at Kick It Out. So when the director or the chair was unavailable for comment with things like Sky Sports News or the newspapers needing a comment on an incident, then actually I got to work with the media at a very kind of relatively young age as a spokesperson, which gave me a lot of confidence to be able to move on in my career. And from there, I went to the BBC, worked there as a sporter, which was fantastic. I really loved my time there. Then went freelance, started working for ITV, did the Euros, which I loved. And off the back of that, developed my own consultancy, helping athletes, organizations, brands, and yeah, just feel really blessed and proud to have gone on to have a career that I've really loved.
Yeah, no, wonderful. You mentioned that you became quite ill during like in and around your time at university. Just how serious was that illness, and how mentally straining was that to deal with, you know,
Yeah,
during time of studies and stuff?
yeah. I mean, it happened off the back of university, and it was, I guess, best described as a minor stroke. So half of my face was paralyzed and suffered some stiffness down my arm. Fortunately, caught it very early, and the diagnosis at the time was that there was a chance that I might not recover in terms of like my face might have been impacted and remain that way. But they did say if you can kind of take the medicine and live a really healthy life to give your body the best chance of recovery, then you could be back to 100% or whatever close to that could be. And so I applied myself over like 3 4 months to really just do everything right that I could in terms of sleeping, eating, exercising, just keeping myself kind of fit and healthy. And very fortunately, I made what is pretty much a complete recovery. So during that time, I had a lot of time to think about what I actually wanted to do, and that's when I made the decision of right, I've got to go for it. I can't hold things back. I've got to try and get on with things, and that's where it's kind of come from in terms of the drive and the sense of purpose I have.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. So how are you with that illness today? Is that something that's fully recovered, or is there sort of something,
Yeah,
or
no, I'm fully recovered in the sense of that was gosh, man, like 20 over 20 years ago now.
yeah,
But that has happened, and since then I've not had any kind of sense of that happening again to me, which is still I was told there's a chance that again if you kind of allow yourself to get run down, then you could suffer again in the same way. But very fortunately, and as a result of being sensible as well in my life, I've taken decent care of myself. So I'm in a good position.
yeah. Oh, wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. Yeah, so obviously since then, you've been appointed this guy's Diversity Advisory Council in 2021. You founded the, production company and sports consultancy, Refresh Sports, where you've able to, collaborate with the likes of Yaya Toure. Just what is it like to collaborate with massive stars like Yaya Toure and Usain Bolt as well as another one that you've worked with in the past? What are they like to be around and to work with?
I feel really fortunate to have developed good relationships with big sports stars and people who are just excellent at what they do. And with Yaya Toure, Yaya and I have been working together for we worked out the other day like 8 9 years now. And in that time, I've gone through lots of lots of things in terms of challenges, executing great opportunities, um, and navigating life together. And he is somebody who obviously was immensely talented as a footballer, and now is plying his trade as a football coach, and will soon, I'm sure, one day be a football manager for a top club. Um, so actually, it's a privilege to be on a journey with people when they're kind of doing those things. Zona Hughes, obviously, is another one who's doing exceptional things in athletics. This season beat Linford Christie's record over the 100 meters, also the 200-meter record held by John Regis. So, working with these people, you understand the mentality and the dedication of an elite person. And it involves a lot of sacrifice, a load of focus, and a lot of sifting through what's important and what's not important. And my role is to support those people as elite performers, to enable them to go away and do whatever they do in an elite way, while helping them with other areas of their lives that enhance what they do and help them perform.
Yeah, wonderful. And sorry, this interview is kind of just all over the place. So I kind of just want to. So, what was your childhood like? Obviously, growing up as as an ethnic minority, people in your family that are of different, ethnic origins. What was your upbringing like? Did you encounter any such racism, whether it may be, indirect or direct? Did you encounter any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in North London, Haringey, North London to be specific, which is probably one of the most diverse places on the planet in terms of different ethnicities, people speaking different languages, there being different religions, and absolutely that enriched and enhanced my youth and my childhood growing up. Because I was just surrounded by so many different people, different perspectives, different ways of living, and actually it was just completely normal for me. So there was no sense of, well, there was a curiosity, but it was just so normal to see people going to mosque or going to synagogue, going to church, having no religion, speaking lots of languages, speaking one language, and also the area that I grew up in also was very accessible, just within like 100 meters in each direction. You could be in what would be deemed a very working class area. 100 meters the other way, you'd be in a very middle class, what I would describe as well to do area. So, therefore, it wasn't just ethnic diversity or religious diversity, this was also socioeconomic diversity as well. So having touch points with all those different worlds in different ways just felt like a real special upbringing for me, that enabled me to first and foremost respect people of all backgrounds, of all kinds of diversity, and understand where the opportunities and the challenges can come in bringing people together. So I had a really positive upbringing. I'm very thankful to my parents. My mum was born in Jamaica. My dad is from a place called Worcester in the West Midlands, but his mum was Irish. So he was brought up in a household that had a diversity that was different to the majority of people who he was living amongst and around. So yeah, and in terms of experiencing racism and discrimination, I've absolutely faced racism and discrimination as a young person, as an adult, in different ways, be that overt, be that institutionalized racism. I've experienced all of those things. But the thing I've learned from those experiences, will stay with me in terms of it igniting in some cases and initially, and giving me a sense of purpose in not wanting anybody to go through what I had gone through, particularly not the next generation. We should always be trying to make it better for every generation that follows us in some way.
Yeah. So, what were those kind of instances? And you can sort of touch on them, how you want to. Just yeah. So, what were those? instances where you did race or, discrimination?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess there are so many that I can potentially go over, but I'll kind of tell you about one to start with, which was my best friend, who remains my best friend to this day, is a white working class guy um, from a similar area to me in North London. He and I are walking through, I'll describe it as a well-to-do area, um, and the police pull up next to us, and two other police cars come along. I'm put on the bonnet of the car and kind of given a full body search. And my white friend stands on the side and is asked about a recent kind of ski trip that we both went on, which was with our school. The difference in how we were treated at that point could not be anything apart from based on race. And the explainer afterwards for why I had been treated in a particular manner and my friend hadn't was I fitted the description of somebody who'd been causing problems. And as a result, that's why I was searched in a different way. For me, it felt discriminatory. For me, it was clearly based on race, so therefore racism. And I was unhappy with that situation. I just felt treated particularly, differently based on, the color of my skin. Other occasions, I've been spat on in and around football when I was much younger. I've had people making monkey signs at me in cars. I've had people blatantly say racist things to my face. And I still feel, an indirect racism, a covert racism, whenever I go to, not whenever, but too often when I go to reception areas of big institutions and businesses. I feel I am treated in a different way to others, and witness that in terms of if I'm going to see somebody at an organization, there feels to be 3 or 4 layers of verification for me to be able to proceed, whereas others give a name and begin to be shown upstairs. These are the kind of soft, kind of microaggressions that we can feel as people of color that can really chip away at us. A brilliant EDI expert called Haley Bennett explained in a session that I was hosting, microaggressions are like mosquito bites. So if you get one, you can bounce it off. But if your body is covered in mosquito bites because you keep getting bitten, then it can cause you extreme pain. And these things mount up as you get more and more and more. They become more significant in terms of the pain it can cause you. So I certainly feel that I've experienced that and continue to experience that even in 2023. But that's the thing that drives me in wanting to make a difference through the work that I do and deliver. And that's what brings me joy when I see brilliant people from underrepresented backgrounds and being given opportunities to change what those businesses are and can represent.
Yeah, well, that's very profound to hear, actually. And yeah, I think a lot of people of ethnic minorities can, correlate to sort of, those past, experiences that you may have gone through. So you mentioned before that, you started, so as you started going into more, professional environments, you know, um, you know, you mentioned that you had been in some institutionalized racism, obviously, indirect racism. Just so when you got into the workplace, what kind of environment was it? Like, what did you sort of experience firsthand for it to be classed as in institutionalized racism?
Well, I think when I say institutionalized racism, I guess what I'm saying is it's recognition of the systems that are
Yeah.
not enabling people to push through and deliver against the potential that they have based on them being not the definition of best that those who have power in these systems have. So I worked for Kick It Out for 7 years. So that's anti-racism charity, right? Which was majority made up of people of underrepresented backgrounds in the game. So within that environment, I don't feel like I experienced institutionalized racism directly. However, I was on the phone hearing from people reporting this to me, and reporting their experiences to me. And I was also witnessing these things within the industry in terms of questioning why we had such a large player base from the Black community, questioning why we had such a large ethnic minority community from the South Asian community, the largest ethnic minority groups in this country. But yet, when we look at who is working in football, when we look at who is making decisions in football, then actually there's almost a complete absence at different times, particularly early on in my career, of people from these backgrounds. Why is that? I knew that people of Black heritage, that people of South Asian background loved football, wanted to be part of football. So why was this not happening? Actually, part of that is down to the fact that, if we were to look at who our definitions of best, if we were part of a recruitment process, so if I was recruiting somebody, I think I would have to really be conscious that maybe my definition of best looks like someone who's mixed heritage and maybe is from North London and maybe has grown up in a particular part of North London. That might be my definition of best. And therefore, if we have three white males, all with a very similar definition of best, does the Black candidate have an opportunity that is fair to be considered the best if the definition of best is already fixed in somebody else's mind? And those are things that are quite deep, and we have to be very deliberate in addressing, because if we have a diverse panel, then actually you have a better chance of those different lenses equating to different senses of what best is. And then obviously there's got to be a decision made in terms of who that person is who goes through. But without that, and we've had that and continue to have that absence of diversity in decision-making processes, we end up with the same thing. And therefore, for me, that represents a lot of the time, structured marginalizing of people and exclusion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So before this interview, obviously, as a part of my research, I came across this quote that I think you may have said. I think it goes something like, "A fish rots from the head." I think this quote has something to do with the initial lack of leadership needed to encourage diversity before I think you essentially took it upon yourself to be that driving figure in the industry. So I just wanted to ask you, what hurdles did you encounter when you first took on the mantle of, being the leader for change in the sports broadcasting industry, if any?
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I would describe myself as a leader, um, as somebody pushing for change. Certainly don't feel comfortable with being called the leader, as complimentary and as nice as that sounds. There are many people that are contributing to
Yeah.
attempting to diversify the sports media, and we're having some successes, but we're not quite there. We've got a long way to go to really be able to take a step back and feel like we've kind of created like significant change. And maybe that's me just having a very high bar of what significant change represents, but I think there's a lot more work to do, and the industry leaders agree with me on that. But for for me, there is a frustration in trying to convince white people that Black and Asian people, that people with disabilities, that LGBTQ plus people, that women are capable of doing extraordinary and excellent things. Just saying that out loud, right? It's wrong. But a lot of my work has been centered around addressing that issue that people do not see in themselves. They see themselves as being massively fair. They see themselves as being all about meritocracy. However, they do not see that they are absolutely excluding people, going back to their definition of best. and what that means and what that represents. They are absolutely excluding people by creating cultures within their workplaces that other people um, won't survive in and can't fit into because they're not inclusive and they're not about everybody. They're about one particular set of people. An example of this is, if you look at where many people would socialize in and around the workplace in the sports media, but also this is an extended thing to lots of different industries. You will find they do that with a pint of beer or a glass of wine in a place that is, not welcoming, not necessarily appropriate for lots of different people who A might not drink, B there might be religious reasons why they don't drink, why they wouldn't be in an environment around alcohol. It might be that actually it can feel like it's difficult to be in a space with somebody who is drinking, particularly if they are older and they are of if it's a woman going into a space with a much older man who's drinking in an environment, it might not feel appropriate. But if those are the norms of where we all get together and learn about each other, then immediately you exclude people. Immediately you make people feel like they're not part of that, and immediately you give an advantage to the people who fit into that culture. And then they have an opportunity to progress through the relationships that they gain and through the trust and through the space they get with the people that are going to choose the next people to kind of be promoted, etc. So if we're not addressing things like that, which might seem quite trivial and might seem unimportant to some people who don't understand these things, then it's going to prohibit how we diversify the industry.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And this sort of leads me on to my next question, which is to do with BComs. Now, myself personally, I have been a great beneficiary of BComs. I was on the last cohort, and it's obviously, it's changed my life, like, beyond belief. And I've managed to do things that I would never even dream of even doing. So for that, obviously, I would like to thank you firsthand, obviously, as well as Tom and Andrew and everyone else involved. So yeah, thank you very much. What was the idea behind BComs, and how and yeah, and what was it like getting it off the ground and getting it, up and running and as successful as it has been so far?
No, well, first of all, Ali, thank you for your very kind words. Tom Gale really is the person who drives that North Masterclass, and it's a shame that we won't have him with us going forward. But he never
Yeah.
really leave BComs, so he would always be involved. But it's important to give credit to him there. And I'd like to hear that it's changed your life, changed your work, career aspirations, etc. Is just fantastic and exactly what BComs is set up for.
Yeah.
So I started BComs because I came into a space that was not diverse. I was working at the BBC. It wasn't a BBC thing, it was a wider industry thing. And I felt I could not operate in this space and not do something about this problem. It's because I came from a campaigner background. I've been an anti-racism campaigner. So I wasn't going to come into a space and just kind of stay in my lane. And that's not a criticism of people who did that, because sometimes people did that because that's the way they survived those environments. But for me, my response to an environment like that was, how do we change it? So I went and knocked on some doors, spoke to some senior leaders, and I offered them solutions as opposed to just flagging up a problem. So if any young person is watching this now, if you have a challenge that is something that is holding you back, holding your community back, holding your friends back, whatever it might be, and you want to raise that with someone who's senior as a leader in the industry, make sure you take a solution to them as well. So what I mean by that is, we can't enter the park at a certain time because the light's too bad and it means we can't do exercise, etc. Well, actually, I've got a contact who could maybe put some lights in and around that park or whatever it might be. That's just like, an example of the sort of things that we should be doing if we bring problems to people. But in this case, there's a lack of diversity, and I said, I can help you. I can help you to reach different groups, because I believe by forming something independent, which BComs is, because BComs is not attached to one broadcast or one newspaper, it's independent, we can really get the trust of the communities, we can understand what our communities want, and we can deliver these things ourselves as people with lived experience. We are delivering these things, and you are therefore supporting. And as an industry, you're the beneficiaries by the support you give to us of having these incredible people with different lenses, different perspectives, who can come out of this even more confident, more connected, and ready to make a change for better business performance.
Yeah.
And the early challenges were basically we didn't have any money. No one cared enough to say this is of value to us. We will help to fund it. Even now, the broadcasters, huge broadcasters, who just do absolutely nothing in terms of financial contribution to beacons and newspapers that again will make no financial contribution to the work that we do. So we work with the people that are serious about this, who are willing to kind of help to support and fund the work, because it can't happen unless we have some kind of resource. It's a not-for-profit organization, so nobody's sat counting the money in the back of the room. We're not a business in that respect. We're in the business of making our industry better. And so we work with the people that are serious, we work with the businesses that are serious, we work with the leaders that are serious. And as you've experienced, we supercharge brilliant people with skills. But that's not all we do. We go away and we knock on doors and we have meetings with leaders to help them understand the benefits of diversity, to help them identify talent, to help them create inclusive work cultures, to help them deal with incidents of racism, which happen far too regularly across our industry. So, I'm really proud that we're in a position where we can contribute to and help to drive positive change. And the fact that we are independent enables us to do things that many of these organizations are too slow moving. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the trust of communities to be able to deliver.
Yeah, well, wonderful. Thank you very much. I'll ask you one last question because I've got to go work in like 10 minutes. But so one last question. What advice would you give to a young person out there who's trying to, I say, make it in the sports broadcasting industry?
Yeah, I mean, the advice I'd give a young person looking at getting into the sports broadcasting industry is, think about what you really love and what you'd really like to work on. So if you are an F1 fanatic, have a look at F1, get excited about F1, but also look at what F1 is not doing very well, in your opinion, or look at where there are gaps around F1 to do things differently. It might be that all the podcasts are really boring because they're talking about massive technical things that a particular audience isn't that engaged in. So maybe it's looking at the F1 culture. Maybe it's kind of, I don't know what it is. I'm not a big F1 fan, by the way. I do watch it occasionally, and I'd like the idea of going to their events, but it's not my number one sport. That's football. But get excited about what you want to do. And then I think it's about finding whatever way you can into that industry to just begin to build your CV and be close to it. But equally, don't stop doing the things that you love. So you might get a job within F1 if you're really lucky, working for a magazine doing articles, and you don't get to write the articles because you're involved in the planning or the graphics or something else. But when you leave at the end of the day, whenever your day ends of that job, you can be writing your own blog, or you could be doing your own video content, or you could have your own podcast. And I think that's where you throw just as much energy in as you are putting into your day job. So then you start building a portfolio of the things that you're going to one day take to an employer and go, look, I can do it. So, think about the things that you want to do and really kind of put a lot of energy into it. And also be curious in terms of other sports as well. Don't limit yourself to one lane, because, sport is seasonal in terms of most of the sports. So if you're a big football fan, what are you going to do during the summer that there's no tournament? And also when there are big tournaments, it's really hard to work on a tournament because you go from that much football to that much football, right? So it gets ultra competitive, and the majority of broadcasters end up sitting at home watching it from their sofas, which they find massively frustrating. So having a cricket, having a tennis, having other sports, athletics, having other sports in your armory of what you can cover is just a sensible thing to do. And also get yourself a network. As young people, you'll go into the business and potentially find yourself, oh God, right, everyone knows a lot, but having a safe space to fall back into, which I hope Becoms is, and it feels like it is. There's a real community there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Opportunity to go back into that community, be it on a WhatsApp group or be it in person or whatever it is, and get to say, I've experienced this. What do you think of this? Or there's a job coming up here. You should go for it. So we're supporting each other. We should never feel alone in this industry. I would really hate for any young person to feel alone in this industry. And that's what Becoms is. Becoms is a safe space to come and just be part of and contribute and experience as you wish to do. If you don't want to do much, that's cool. You can just come listen at our events. If you want to be on the panel at our events, you can be coming with some ideas, and I'm sure we'd love to consider putting people on as panelists or whatever we do.
Well, thank you. Well, wonderful. Thank you very much for your time, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem.
I'll just stop the recording now.